Hi, this is Michael. I typically like to find things that are applicable to myself and to others. This particular article makes me very grateful, makes me feel a little bit sad, and even a little bit frightened, and more grateful that I'm making the video as I am right now, because sometimes in our lives, there's certain things you can't prepare for, and one of those things that you can't prepare for that is a terrible tragedy to the individual and to the individual's family is Alzheimer's and dementia. From www.alzinfo.org, it says about Alzheimer's. We're going to be reading a little bit about that, and I'll tell you who it's by. It's by Fisher Center for Alzheimer's Research Foundation. It says Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia. It is a neurological brain disorder named after a German physician, Alois Alzheimer, who first described it in 1906. In this section, we will describe Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia, the possible causes for Alzheimer's, what happens to the brain as the disease progresses, and what are the risk factors. Here, we will explain and define Alzheimer's symptoms, current treatments, and how Alzheimer's disease is diagnosed. We'll also help you to locate doctors who can diagnose Alzheimer's disease, give you insight into the types of questions to ask when choosing your doctor, and describe some of the diagnostic tests that you should expect. It goes on to question 1. It says, what is Alzheimer's disease? It's going to give a more in-depth discussion. My great-grandmother, whose name was Inez, had Alzheimer's when I knew her. I never knew her she was, of course, probably 70 years old, and my mother had to feed her and change her, and she couldn't speak, but it is a genetic possibility. What is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia, a group of disorders that impairs mental functioning. Dementia literally means loss of mentation or thinking. At the moment, Alzheimer's is progressive and irreversible. Abnormal changes in the brain worsen over time, eventually interfering with many aspects of brain function. Memory loss is one of the earliest symptoms, along with a gradual decline of other intellectual and thinking abilities, called cognitive functions, and changes in personality or behavior. Alzheimer's advances in stages, progressing from mild forgetfulness and cognitive impairment to widespread loss of mental abilities. In advanced Alzheimer's, people become dependent on others for every aspect of their care. The time course of the disease varies by individual, ranging from 5 to 20 years. The most common cause of death is infection. Okay, so that is what is Alzheimer's disease, and so we've learned thus far that it goes in stages from mild forgetfulness to full-blown inability to operate the body. What is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? And it's loading up on my computer, so bear with me. We will talk about the difference between dementia, which is spelled D-E-M-E-N-T-I-A, dementia, and Alzheimer's, the disease was named after Alois, A-L-O-I-S, Alzheimer's, in 1906. We hear that all the time here at Fisher Research Center for Alzheimer's Research Foundation. It is a common question, and doctors can sometimes contribute to the confusion. It may be that physicians prefer to use the word dementia because the term Alzheimer's can sound more overwhelming and frightening. But the terms Alzheimer's disease and dementia may mean two very different things. The National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke defines dementia as a word for a group of symptoms caused by disorders that affect the brain. It is not a specific disease. People with dementia may not be able to think well enough to do normal activities, such as getting dressed or eating. They may lose their ability to solve problems or control their emotions. Their personalities may change. They may become agitated or see things that are not there. And this is the definition of dementia by the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. Though Alzheimer's disease is the most common, many different diseases can cause dementia. Drugs are available to treat some of these diseases. There's several different forms of dementia, and they have listed about 8 different forms. Of those, they're defined if you wish to highlight on the particular type. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is abbreviated CJD. Dementia with Lewy bodies, Lewy bodies. Frontotemporal dementia. Huntington's disease. Normal pressure hydrocephalus. Parkinson's disease. Vascular dementia. And Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. So that's 8 different versions of dementia. So when you think, especially with neurology, when you think it's one thing, it could be one thing that is a symptom of many other things, which sometimes you have to wait it out. Kind of like comparable, not to compare being pregnant for a female to a disease, but sometimes you don't know until that 30 days is up or until the disease progresses and the other symptoms show. This is just one example of an illness that could happen to anyone. It could be floating about in your genetic code from 10 generations ago, and all of a sudden you reach the age of 40 and you get more forgetful than your peers. So that's the difference, a little bit of the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's, according to Fisher Center for Alzheimer's Research Foundation. And you may ask, especially when someone is guilty of something and you say, hey, do you remember when you did this or you said this or you did, if they did something wrong, they seem to never remember it. So you wonder how many people have literal Alzheimer's and how many people. Which brings me again to the question, which is off the subject. When someone gets off, say a criminal gets off, and it happens all the time, you see it on the news, a criminal gets off of a crime because he pleads that he is insane, legally insane. Is it an excuse, the way that someone, I forgot that I broke the law, I forgot that I lost my ability to relate to another human being and egotistically took a life above my own or less than my own, or something got out of whack with my ethics? How does law and medicine and being manipulative with words and acting and telling someone, don't say this, because today, for example, I was discussing my resume and my previous work history and some of the bad experiences and things that I had witnessed from employers. And she's like, don't say that in an interview, you won't get the job, you will look like a drama queen, or you'll look like you have too much baggage. And I said, okay, so you want me to be a submissive 40s type female and just sit there and shake my head yes and do whatever the employer or the supervisor says? She says, yes, that's what you should do. And that's what most interviewers and my many trainings of getting the job and resume creating, etc., that's what most of them say to be. I prefer someone to be honest, because when we're honest, neither of us waste any time. If the employer says, I think that Michael will be really a good match for Cindy, who is single, because I've seen his Facebook page and I've seen his music interest, and they're both single and they both are Baptist, then she has a preconceived idea in her head when she hires me that will not function with I won't be a puppet. So that kind of thing, I think